What do you get when you mix Facebook Marketplace, an ambitious buyer, and a little bit of pocket money? The short answer is a regrettable decision, but spoiler alert, the barn find Honda Civic has been rehomed. That car is long gone. Kind of sad to see it go, but I made a little bit of money off of it, so we're golden there. But it leads me to the project that I have in front of me now that I decided to scoop up recently. And that is this 2003 Subaru WRX Impreza. I bought this car because about 10 years ago, I was in my Subaru phase. I owned a bunch of Legacies, even an SVX at one point, which if you're not familiar with what that is, go check it out. It's basically a fun little spaceship car. I had one of those, super rare, hard to come by. And so me being me was like, you know what? I'm familiar with Subarus. Let me scoop this one up. And I got it for dirt cheap because it doesn't run. Previous owner states that it is having fuel issues and it maybe needs injectors. So the plan was to diagnose it, get it running again, and maybe bomb around with it in the winter. Once it's running and driving, put it back up on Marketplace, see if I can flip it, make a little bit of money. If not, worst case scenario, I've got a great winter car. Downside is this is a horrible example of a WRX because despite its pretty face, it's got quite a bit of rust. Both rear wheel arches are gone and the passenger side floorboard is rotted. Now I knew about these problems when I initially bought the car, but the downside is I did show up to buy it after the sun had gone down. So I didn't really get a full grasp of what condition the car was in. And so I knew it was rusty. I didn't think it was that far gone until I started lifting up the seat to check the condition of the fueling system, right? Kind of go through the process of elimination thinking, okay, maybe it needs a pump or, you know what I mean? You have to kind of diag it. Only to find out I lift up the rear seat and there's a hole in the gas tank that somebody has patched up with the skin of a energy drink can. So I live by the mentality that the way we do anything is the way we do everything. So if somebody was willing to patch a gas tank with a can and some self-tappers, what other type of fuckery have they done to this car? So I'm just not willing to risk it. I'm not willing to put the car on the road. I'm not willing to sell it to somebody else and something go wrong. So we're just gonna write this one off and part it out, unfortunately. Now, despite my best judgment, I am going to sink a little bit of effort into it because I wanna know if the engine does run and drive. If so, I can pull the engine, sell it as a good condition engine, and try to strip as many good parts off of it as we can. Maybe save something for a future project. But that's what you and me are gonna be getting involved with today. With the car pushed away a little bit, able to get a better idea of what we're looking at. You can see this is kind of how I got the car. Over there is where the floor is rusted through. But I went through the process of elimination. That's kind of something you have to do when you're dealing with a running or a non-running car. Is realize that an engine needs three things, right? Fuel, spark, and air. Then obviously the timing of all those things. But to start simple, I kind of start at the fuel pump. And the connector is getting 12 volts, tested it with the multimeter. There is 12 volts coming to this connector, but when I plug this in, the pump doesn't turn on. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. So I'll come over here, turn on the ignition. So we've got power, right? We'll swing back over here. Oh, also in the trunk area, there was a complimentary transmission. I don't know why that would be in the trunk. Hopefully this car has a good transmission because I'd like to sell it as that way. I don't see if I can. I'm not going to be able to get these prongs in there. You just have to take my word for it. There is 12 volts at this connector. Plug this in and see if you can hear the pump turn on. Did you hear it? Of course not, because the pump seems to be dead. And I really don't want to buy a brand new fuel pump for this car because knowing its future is eventually just going to get parted out anyway, so why spend the money? So I'm going to jump on the internet, eBay, check local wrecking yards to see if anyone's got a fuel pump for this. And if I can find a used fuel pump, we'll throw that in, get the engine running, maybe drive it around a little bit, and then strip it apart. So stay tuned.
3 days later.
Fast forward a couple of days, and courtesy of Rock Auto, we've got a fuel pump for the WRX. I'll show you what we're going to do. So instead of replacing the full housing assembly, we're just going to replace the actual pump itself, which, like I said, I got this unit from Rock Auto, $30. So very cheap, very inexpensive. And so just disconnect this hose, unplug that connector, and unbolt it from the housing itself, and we should be golden. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now before I throw this in the car completely, bolt it all up and give it a send, I am going to at least just plug in the connector, hit the key, and see if I hear the pump. So yeah man, let's get to it. So I'll be honest, I almost forgot to put the sock back on the pump, but luckily I remembered. So before you come at me in the comment section, just know I did put the sock back on. Let's plug this unit in and see what happens. We want to plug that in. And I'll move the camera down low so if it turns on, you guys will be able to hear it. 3, 2, 1. That's turning on. Aha! So I won't know until after I review the footage if the microphone picked it up, but the new pump kicks on, which the old one didn't. So fingers crossed. I really think it's just as easy as connecting everything the way it used to be, like putting the housing back in, hitting the key, and in theory this thing should fire. All right, so fuel pump is completely connected back in. It's kind of a moment of truth. If it works or not and the car fires, I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of worried because I know there's a few things that are disconnected in the engine. Fingers crossed this car fires up, guys. If so, I'm gonna be so excited. Here, let's stick you down here, get you a good view of that muffler. It's got the Fart Cannon 3000 on that boy. Also, I found some other parts. I found some other parts in the car, drive shaft, CV shaft. So hopefully selling all these parts separately. But enough jibber jabber. Let's see if this thing fires. Wah, wah, wah. Of course, we got a no fire. I'm gonna hook up the battery charger to see if it's just cranking really slow and that's why it's not firing. So bear with me just a moment. So the car's been on the battery charger plugged in for a hot minute. In the meantime, I did go over everything in the engine compartment. Let me show you real quick. So the intercooler wasn't connected to the intake manifold. I did that hose clamp. The upper radiator hose has Bluetooth hose clamps, which is probably what those over there on the strut tower are. The radiator looks like it's been kind of smushed. The fins are kind of smushed, and there's like JB Weld covering it. So The radiator is trash, unfortunately, because it looks like it was a pretty decent one. It was a Koyo rad. So it was an aftermarket radiator that the previous owner just absolutely destroyed. But I digress. We got good charge in the battery. Let's hit this key one more time and see what she do though. I'm already fed up. I am so disappointed. I had all the excitement in the world, and for it to not start it's a letdown. Not going to be honest. I'm not going to be honest. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I do feel defeated. I know the car is getting fuel. I noticed while cranking that the gauge, the tachometer, isn't detecting any RPMs. So I'm going to hunt around and see if there's anything that was left disconnected, see if there's any sensors or something that's unplugged, and hopefully go from there. After a few minutes of tinkering with this thing, I've decided that we're just going to part ways with it and call it good as is. The reason being is I pulled off this feed line, which is for the fuel. So the feed goes into the fuel filter and then exits out. I pulled this off to see if there's actually fuel coming up to the filter. There is. The downside, it's very milky. It's very like white looking fuel, which is weird because the stuff in the gas tank doesn't look like this. So maybe moisture got into the fuel that's in the lines. And based off what I could find after smashing the Google buttons, it seems that the injectors could be clogged, the rails could be clogged. There could be many, many more issues with this car, and sadly, I'm just not willing to dive into it, considering the plan from the start was to have this car eventually end up in the scrapyard. Why bother? You know what I mean? Like, I put in the effort. I did what I could, and we have gone as far as we can take this. So let's start the stripping apart process. All right, fast forward a couple of days, and we may have gone a little crazy on the part out. I've got most of the front end there, headlights, bumpers, wheels and tires over there, rockers are out. That's what's left. Seats, doors. She's gutted, guys. Real quick though, I want to show you how bad the rust actually was on this car. So rockers on the driver's side, completely gone. I shouldn't be able to see through that much. There's the hole in the floorboard. There's your carpet. There's a bit of a grate right there on the other side of the frame rail holding the floorboard in. Driver's side isn't better by any means as far as the rockers go, but the floor pan's solid over here. Maybe. I don't know if I would trust that. Either way, the shell of the car is no bueno. So we're gonna do the logical thing and just cut the car in half. I don't know where to cut it. Do we cut it in the front? Do we cut it in the back? I think I want to cut it right, I don't know, I want to cut it behind the pillar, because I'm thinking it'll be easier to load up if I cut it here. The back end will be more structural, so I can put this on a trailer and get it the heck out of here. And the front end, maybe somebody will come by and snag up the engine and transmission. The exhaust is gone. It's still got the turbo, and that's really about it. So without further ado, let's get cutting, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, before I get cutting, I do want to say I'm going to be using these Milwaukee Sawzall blades. I've never used Milwaukee blades. Hopefully they cut through it like butter. I've heard good things. These are the Torch, meant for cast iron, thick metal, so it should have no problem cutting through what's left of this car. So yeah, we'll give these a shot and see what happens, but let's get to it. So far, the blade is eating like butter. Let me adjust this camera. So the driver's side floorboard is cut through. We're gonna tackle the roof next, and hopefully she splits apart in half safely, right? That's kind of what we want. I don't want anything to break apart and then smack into me whatsoever, because that would be a bad day. But let's continue with the work, and I'm gonna bring you along and we'll cut the roof in half next. I was actually just thinking how this blade's been pretty tough, but she bent. I don't know if it'll finish up. So I straightened it out a little bit better. But it's such a bad angle. Let me take you to the other side real quick. There we go. So it should split apart now. It's not quite what I had in mind. Now I suppose I probably should have taken out the drive shaft, but I ended up just cutting straight through it. I didn't even feel that I was cutting through it. Well, that should be the last thing that's actually attached. I don't know if I can yank these two apart, but I've got the back half sitting on 4 jack stands. Front half is sitting on the engine crane over there, the cherry picker. So we should be able to spread them apart. That's what she said, eh? JDM half cut, bro. Now, I get to figure out how the heck we get this back half out of here. But before this is gone, I want to show you guys, I'm going to sweep this up, how much Subaru is all over the place, right? Oh, it's funny. That's what the inside of a Subaru drive shaft looks like. I wonder how light this is. I bet a couple of guys can come pick that up. Hell yeah. Oh, that fine JDM sheet metal, man. Oh, this thing was so bad. You can see inside the rockers there. She's toast. All right, so all these parts are gonna get listed up on Facebook. That half there can hopefully be put up on Facebook. Maybe somebody will come take it for like $100 or something. Doesn't really matter to me at this point. I'm just over this car and ready to see it gone and have some shop space back. So I'll check back in with you once all this stuff is cleaned up. We'll do a final price breakdown to see whether or not I lost or made money on this project. I've got some good news and bad news, unfortunately, for you. Let's go from the top. The good news is the WRX is officially gone. I've scrapped, parted out the majority of it. I do still have a couple of parts, but we'll get into that in a little bit. The bad news is overall financially, I don't think it was a very good decision. Who'd have thunk it? But let's go over the details and you can see how much I lost or made. Make your predictions now in the comment section. Tell me how you think it happened. So let's go over the expenses. I bought the car for $900. It's non-running. I had a tow truck transported to my garage. I paid $80 for that. $30 for the fuel pump, just as a test experiment to see if that would solve the problem. And I spent $45 on Sawzall blades because I cut the car in half. So all in, I was $1,055. Now, here is what I was able to make off of parting it out. I got $100 for the hood, the driver's seat, because of my fantastic negotiation skills, I was able to get $20 and a 16-ounce can of Red Bull. So, perfect. The transmission, the clutch, the spare differential, drive shaft, the blow-off valve, all that went to one person. He gave me $160 for all that stuff. I think I could have gotten more if I really wanted to, but because I didn't know the condition of those parts, they were essentially just scrap or cores to me. So I didn't push too much for that. I also had another person come and buy the left front steering knuckle. While they were here, they picked up the coilovers as well. They weren't anything fancy. So $140 for the knuckle and the coilovers. The headlights were picked up for $60. And then I sold the front half altogether as a complete unit. I wish I would have pulled out the engine and transmission, but realistically, I was just tired of looking at the car and didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I figured load the front clip up onto a trailer, ship it off, and be done with it for once and all. And then the rear half, I sent that to scrap, and I got $147 for the rear half. That did include the wheels too. I have a tire machine, so I popped the tires off and scrapped the aluminum wheels separately. So altogether, I was able to recoup $727 of my total investment, which is a little bit short of where we needed to be to break even. Now, the good news is I still have a couple of parts left laying over. I have all 4 doors, which I currently have listed on Marketplace for $50 a piece or $150 for all 4. So if we aim low and say I get $150 for the doors, the front bumper with the fog lights, I still think I can get about $120 to the right person for that. And then I still have the complete exhaust system. So catless downpipe all the way to the tip of the muffler. I think I could probably get about $100 for that too. So theoretically, I've got at least $370 worth of parts laying around that may or may not sell. Just depends on how well Facebook Marketplace treats me. So yeah, overall, I did not make any money, unfortunately. I spent hours away from my family to deal with that car, and in the end I'm gonna count it up as a loss. But if you can tell from behind me, I've already got my next Marketplace acquisition behind me is a 2002 BMW 330i. We will get more into that on the next video. If you've enjoyed this one so far, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We are currently in 2024. My goal for this year is to get up to 1,000 subs. I've been doing YouTube videos now for about 6 years, and we just hit 600, so thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. And on that bombshell, have a good night, guys.